god. I hammered him.
You know what? Fuck it.
You see this guy? Nice. Yo, what is up everyone? Lord Zella here. Today I'm reintroducing a PvP series called To Stamplar. I started the series a while back but postponed due to upcoming CP changes and overall class changes that made my last video pretty outdated. In this video, I will be, once again, going over the bases of Stamina Templar. What do I mean by this? I'm just saying that I will be covering what makes a Stamplar a Stamplar. So I'll be going over the playstyle, the pros, the cons, and pretty much everything else about the class. This is the first of the video series for players of all levels that are interested in learning more about the class itself. All before you level a class that you may not be interested in, or you just want a little bit more information about the class you're about to try out. So what is a Stamplar? A Stamplar is a Templar class focused on physical attributes, meaning maximum stamina, weapon damage, weapon crit, and anything else that gives bonuses towards physical stam attributes. Currently, Stamplars are one of the more popular classes in ESO, PvP wise, and it is performing very well with new CP changes. Crit damage has gone up overall, and that is the bread and butter of Stamplars. Stamplars also have in-class abilities and passives that give weapon damage, higher crit chance, and even more crit damage. It is important to utilize these abilities and passives in order to help maximize your build and performance. Even though we don't use all of our passives because some are made for Magic Templar more than Stamina, the class overall still feels great in its current patch. Here are some pros and cons of Stamplar. So let's go over the pros first. Currently, great damage. Our ultimate, our spammable, and burning light helps us rip through most opponents. We have a lot of AoE pressure in our class, and thanks to our main damage ability, we tend to have great crit as well. Sustain is decent as long as you keep your main armor buff down and remember to heavy attack and just not get greedy. The class has access to Extended Ritual, which is an ability that heals, gives minor mending, removes debuffs, and even provides a group synergy. Very, very strong. Stamplars can stay in the fight as long as they're mobile. They purge debuffs when needed and keep pressure on targets. They feel like a brawler at times. They actually stay in the fight, mainly. Now, some of the cons of Stamplar is that since it is AoE based, Stamplar damage can be mitigated easily because of buffs such as Major Evasion. Newer players might find Stamplar a little bit hard to sustain on overall, even with the Restoring Spirit passive. Sometimes it's just not enough for some newer players. The spammable and lag is absolutely horrible. If it's not lagging, then the ability is usually fine. Similar to Dizzying Swing. We have no real burst abilities outside of ultimates. So we lost our Power of the Light damage, which was our main source of burst. We're no longer dot damage heavy either. Like sometimes you need your ultimate to kill tankier players. Our spammable is a channeled ability, meaning it can leave you open to taking damage while trying to deal damage to some players. Sometimes it's just not worth the risk to jab multiple times in the open field, for example. You can get sniped out of nowhere and die during a jab channel, or CC during a jab channel. Anything like that. The class isn't very tanky unless you really build for it. So, meaning full damage Stamplars tend to be really squishy if they aren't paying attention to mechanics. So, if you're not constantly CC breaking when you need to, when you're not healing, when you drop your debuffs, like the moment you stop healing, you get clapped, like being honest. So let's get to the skill lines. I will be mainly covering abilities that are easily viable on Stamina Templar. So, meaning I will not be covering its opposite variant, Magic Templar. So we're gonna go to our Aedric Spear skill line. This is our main damage skill line for Stamplar. As Biting Jabs, which is our unique spammable. It's an AoE based ability that is free casted and hits like a truck. Since it is AoE, it does hit multiple targets, but only the closest target takes full damage from the ability. It also procs Major Savagery that increases our crit chance by 10%, and it's one of the best abilities outside of lag. It also helps proc Burning Light, and so will the next abilities I'll be covering. Binding Javelin. This is our main CC. It can hit like a truck since it ignores armor and resistances, and it also can proc Burning Light. Plus it's ranged. I've had this hit certain targets for like 9k before. I'm not even exaggerating. Focus Charge, you want to morph this into toppling. I just started to level this on my Templar. I want to test it out. But once you morph it, this ability is a gap closure that can proc Burning Light and it CCs your opponent. It also will knock them off balance and causing them to take more damage from your abilities. Spear Shards and Sun Shield I have never used, never thought about using. I just don't think they're relevant on Stamplar and PvP. This is an AoE that doesn't hit hard really, and Sun Shield is a shield that is, in my opinion, borderline useless. Now let's get to the passives. Piercing Spear. This is just 10% more crit damage and increases your damage done to blocking targets by another 10%. So remember when I was saying that this class is based on crit? This is one of the key passives. Please get this ability. Even if you only have 30% crit, you can still utilize the blocking target damage increase if you have Malakath on. But anyways, this is more crit damage done. Very, very important, since you know it's a crit based class. Spear Wall. So when we jab or use our toppling charge or hit javelin, we get minor protection for 6 seconds, which is just more damage reduction by 5%. And so now here we have Burning Light. Burning Light is an ability that procs when you use any Aedric Spear ability 4 times in rapid succession. So this can proc off of jabs like pretty much cooldown. Very strong. It can crit. It does help our damage a lot since we lost damage pressure on Stamplar. Very, very important. And then we have Balanced Warrior, which increases our weapon damage. Pretty legit. That's why we run high weapon damage. The more weapon damage you have, the more this 6% is going to be relevant. And we get a little bit of spell resistance as well, which is pretty nice. It's almost equal to Minor Breach, so it almost cancels that out, spell resistance wise at least. And then now we look at the ultimate. We're using Crescent Sweep. Radial Sweep is its unmorphed name. We're using the Magicka version of this ability. It hits super hard with CP changes and it scales to your weapon damage and crit. Since it's AoE, it is undodgeable, and the AoE pulse is undodgeable as well. It also hits multiple targets. So if you hit somebody, or if you miss your Crescent Sweep on somebody, they can still get hit by the AoE pulse. If you miss your Dawnbreaker on somebody, you don't get the dot damage either. So at least with Crescent Sweep, you're still dealing some sort of damage. The ability is cheap. You can kill just a couple of targets with Crescent, and then you can have it back up within seconds if you kill everybody. It is really strong. It's like a truck, and it's just great with the new CP changes. If you question the tooltip, it also is increased by 60% for enemies that are right in front of you. It's really hard. This is the bread and butter of my current build, and this is honestly saving Stamplar as a whole right now, in my opinion. Now let's go over Dawn's Wrath. Dawn's Wrath is more of the damage skill line for the Magicka Templar, but there was an ability that used to be super mainstream on Stamplar. It's actually still kind of used today, but I don't think the ability is really worth it. Power of the Light, a morph of Backlash. So this ability was our burst ability. It scales off of maximum stamina, but to be honest, I don't really think max stam builds are worth. So it's not really worth trying to get the maximum copy damage tooltip that high. You get more offensive weapon power overall from weapon damage and pen. Potto, however, does give minor breach, and that does give you a little bit of pen. This used to be our burst ability because it used to hit really hard. The damage gets increased the more damage you deal while it's up. Meaning, the more you hit a player when this is on them, the harder it will hit. Unfortunately, it really doesn't hit that hard. Even if you're constantly dealing the 16k to your opponent, right now we're looking at 8k before Battle Spirit, and then plus other damage mitigation. Sometimes this will hit for 4k. This ability is an ability that needs to crit. So if you do use Power of the Light, try to get a minimum of, I want to say like 34 to like 40% crit. Even on my build currently, I have 40% crit, and I still don't think it's just that worth it. It doesn't hit that hard, and it gets cleansed too often. This used to be really good with timing with your ult, so you would ult right before it went off to hit your ult damage and to hit the max copy damage here. So they would both go off near at the same time, but it just doesn't hit that hard anymore. The highest I've got this to hit with this patch with Crescent Sweep is 11k crit, and that was on a max orc that was, I think he was 900 CP. So it doesn't feel like a relevant ability anymore. Everything else here, not that relevant for Magplar. Was looking at the Solar Barrage. I want to morph it and see how it does. I don't think it's going to be that great, even with the Empower boost. It's just looking for more AoE since Crescent Sweep's AoE is nice, but I don't think this will be worth either. So just disregard that. Now let's look at the passives. Enduring Rays, unneeded. We don't use any of these abilities that are listed in the tooltip or description, except maybe Nova, and that's for group play. Prism, very useful if you use Power of the Light for the extra damage and small bursts, and it gives you a little bit of ultimate, and more ultimate is just meaning more damage. You get 3 ultimate when you cast Power of the Light every 6 seconds. Not bad if you're using Potto. Really, really nice. Illuminate. This is more of a group utility when you cast your Power of the Light for the group. It gives minor sorcery for your Magicka-based group members. Doesn't help the Stamplars though. Restoring Spirit. This is a must-need. This is the most important passive in the skill line. This reduces the health, Magicka, stamina, and ultimate cost of your abilities by 5%. Very, very needed. Now let's go over to Restoring Light. Actually, wait. Now let's take a look at Nova. Nova is only worth back bar for your Harmony group builds. Not very great in PvP unless you have someone to synergize this ability with. It is not a solo based ult. It costs a lot, but it can deal decent damage. It lasts 10 seconds, and if you look at the tooltip there, was 4 times 4 or 4.4 times 10. That's a 44k tooltip, right? They do have the stand in it though, and then it does have a decent synergy. Again, this is mainly used for like your Harmony group members. It's just too situational. This is not a solo ult again. I don't recommend it unless you have like amazing synergy with a group member that is going to use the synergy for you. That's everything for the skill line. You can't really use much here at all. Now let's look at Restoring Light. Now this is your utility and some of your healing. This is your buffs. Very, very important skill line here. First ability we're going to go over is Repentance, one of the morphs of Restoring Aura. So this ability, I used to use it all of the time when my sustain was a little bit lower, but now I don't think it's as relevant. Yes, it does help with sustain and gives you more stam based on corpses used on, and it heals you as well. While it's slotted, you gain minor fortitude, minor endurance, and minor intellect, increasing your health, stamina, and magic recovery by 15%. So you could backbar this if you have a free slot, if you stack it with anything else, maybe werewolf too. Werewolf ultimate, that is. It just depends on what you have. Maybe Black Rule's dual wield perfected backbar, or I think stamina recovery. Like it can stack with other bonuses, but I don't think it is that relevant anymore in this current patch. Extended Ritual is a must-have. This ability removes debuffs, gives you minor mending through passives, and also heals you for a decent amount. It also gives you group synergy, so allies can cleanse debuffs from them as well. Over time, this heals you a lot. It's a little expensive, so this isn't something you want to spam, but it does remove 5 debuffs from you. This is what keeps your character alive. This is a big ability. Please use this ability when you play on Stamplar. Find a spot for it. It is pretty much needed. Without this, like, I just don't see a reason to play Stamplar, really. It's just too important with how many debuffs you can get from a light attack now, you know. Removes dots, debuffs, anything like that. Really strong, and it cleanses all debuffs from your allies when they use a synergy. Now let's go over Restoring Focus. Another must-have. This is your armor buff. We gain 5.9k physical and spell resistances, and an additional 2.9k, almost 3k, while you stand in the rune. And we also get another 240 stamina recovery every 1 second while it's active. It lasts 20 seconds long. You place it on the floor, you run away from it, you keep your buff, you can run back into it to reset it right before the rune actually physically goes away. And you have your buff up again. It's super cheap, and it literally pays for itself. Stamina cost wise. It is amazing. This is one of the things that makes Stamina Templar. Let's go over the passives. So mending here, it says increases your healing effects by up to 12% in proportion to the severity of your target's wounds. So this is only going to affect your extended ritual here and the ultimate here. We're not using Breath of Life or anything else here on a Stamplar. It's not going to be very viable. But it does help with ritual. Sacred Ground. So while standing in ritual or your rune, you do gain minor mending, which is an additional 8% healing done. Very important. And increases the damage you can block by 10% for the duration. Next up we have Light Weaver. So when you heal an ally with Restoring Light abilities, you gain 2 ultimate if they were under 50% HP. So your ritual and your Rite of Passage, which is again the ultimate. And this also gives you 33,000 armor when you cast the ultimate and stand in it. Or while you are casting the ability, rather. Next you have Master Ritualist. That just gives you faster res speed, and it reses them at full HP. Next here is Remembrance. So this ability gives you major protection, heals allies and yourself. You cannot move while you're casting this, but it can save your group and give you time to think about your current situation. However, you can get focused down pretty fast while casting this ability. Think of this as like your last resort ultimate. So often when I'm group playing and we don't have healers in group, which is actually very common at the moment, for my guild at least, if we're getting bombarded by like 20 people, like it's nice for everyone else to drop their damage abilities, and I'll cast a Remembrance. I've had Remembrance hit some people for like 12k crits sometimes, and yes, that saves them. It's constantly ticking. It only lasts 4 seconds, but imagine if they got a 12k crit every 4 seconds. A lot of healing. This can really save you and your group many times. But that is it for the main skill lines for Stamplar. Yo, thank you guys for watching the video. Again, this is only the introduction video for Stamina Templar. I'll be going over more in the next few videos. I ran a poll on my YouTube asking the community what video should be next, and we decided on a how to build a Stamplar video. So I'll be going over what weapons skill lines, sets, armors, races, anything like that. And even foods like to use in the next video to fully utilize the class's passives and active abilities. Again, this was just the introduction video to let you guys know what the playstyle Stamplar was, what were the pros and cons, and ultimately what makes a Stamina Templar a Stamina Templar. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you on the next video. Don't forget to catch me live on Twitch. Feel free to join my Discord, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, ask below in the comments. Thank you guys so much. Your support has been overwhelming, and I will see you soon. Thank you.
There's 5.
Heavy attack. Crescent. 17,000, baby.